special topic, busting out the tappy marker. We're going to be talking about something that I've got asked quite a bit in the comment section. And since somebody asked me to actually make a video on this recently, I am. So this is for you and all the others on this channel who are curious about why I named the channel this. So let's get into it. Essentially, one of the main reasons is because it relates to, well, let's just start with some of the heavy topics first today. We'll get right into it. Is because essentially Mercury, in the level of energetics that is described in spirituality, there's like levels like the astral, which are like just outside this dimension, which is in turn the emotional level, which is why it relates a lot to the moon, especially the full moon. Like a lot of people who astral project say like, oh yeah, I notice like I have like more vivid, or I notice that I have a lot of my astral projections are on like the full moon. So like, why is that? Because like tides affect water, you are also water, and when the full moon comes, your energy to essentially like leave your body is higher than what it would be if it was like the new moon or something like that. So and like this energy and mentality, it basically is the energy that joins together emotionality and causality is a bridge that is essentially is this, like, you can see basically it's like the Venus symbol and then the moon like almost on the top. What it means is that it's transmuted that. So essentially you can think of causality like the loom of fate, right? That everything in the cosmos is connected by these like little invisible strings that are woven all throughout existence. And essentially mentality, the construct that you create around an idea, is that which has the idea to either has the ability to either cut the thread or essentially make something manifest through a thread, or ensure something doesn't manifest through that same energetic dynamic. In essence, though, basically is the seat of the self, where the two energies of unity and balance really come into one aspect. And that's why we see it relate a lot with fire, because what does fire do? It's actually transcending things to a higher dimension of energy. That's why you see Bro's aura glowing up like, you know, like that's why, because fire is that transformation of something into a higher form, like almost like the aspect of the divine coming into our presence. And it's interesting because also this is an interesting center because it's the seat of will. And if you are familiar with Revelation, especially Revelation 2, where they're talking about the church of Pergamos, which is the third church of Revelation, they say it's where Satan's seat is. But the basis of the church is that you have this connection to yourself, to the self, and that you haven't denied the strength of the self to overcome things. And that's why it says that the call to action for that church is to repent, because to ensure that you have a good or clear connection with the self, you have the ability to perceive your reflection in the way that it's either unified with you or it's a complementary reflection of you. Complementary. Yeah. So essentially, yeah, that's why you have ego and shadow, right? These two separate parts of mentality. You can almost think about it as like looking in a mirror, right? in essence, though, you want the same reflection on either sides of the mirror. So this is essentially what this center does, and that's why it's where transmutation occurs and where very high energy is created in the body. So with this, that is essentially strength. Power and strength are different. Most people don't really pay attention to it too much. The concepts or the aspects that define those words. But essentially, power is the innate force that you have behind something. Strength is the amount that the energy climbs once it is in a point of transition or transformation involving some other energy. So it's the ability to almost like overcome energy and then like beyond that level, like have that as like your new almost baseline. That's the word I was looking for, baseline. So strength is like really the aspect of the center relating to mentality. So, and what I said before, I don't know if I got this much deep into it, but this is a center related to, as they said the Bible, like the adversary. That's what I would say. Like they say Satan, but I would say the adversary is more of a descriptive word, because like the concept is almost like what they talk about with the concept of legion, where it's all the demons connected to like one higher entity of like demon or whatever. But the concept is that when you have fragments of the self, like ego and shadow, and they're very polarized, that allows for like this almost like possessive force to be in action more so and have more willpower in your life. But mentality, the ability to actually overcome that and fuse with yourself, similar to how like Ryuga did in like Beyblade Metal Fusion, or I guess in Metal Masters and Metal Fury, where he fuses with a dark power and then essentially overcomes those entities or negative influence, you could say, that ultimately comes from your own heart, because entities can only manifest as a result of some reflection that you have inside of yourself, typically. So, in essence, though, when you overcome that aspect of that almost demon or adversarial force inside the self, you basically have the sword of Mercury or the sword of Michael. And the sword of Michael is the instrument which is able to smite all the demons and the adversary. But the catch is that it can only be held up by somebody strong enough to wield it. And this is not about physical strength. This is about strength of the inner self, the strength of mentality, the strength to perform transformation in some sense, right? So, alchemy of the self. So this is what we're talking about here. So it's a pretty interesting center, and if you know that, then like you're basically like onto like what it means to be almost like, as they say in the Bible, Michael's name means like God. So essentially, you connect to that center, then you essentially are characterized by that aspect of the self. So that is the Archangel, which essentially is the angel related to that church. Michael's related to Pergamos, which is related to the solar plexus, which is related to fire, which is related to Mercury, and Mercury is the closest to the sun. So even though Venus is technically hotter, we'll get into that maybe later, because like, as you can see, like Venus is right there where it says wind, and will is like, that's where Mercury is, that's the moon, and then like, well, that's essentially the basis of the diagram. But anyway, Mercury is the closest to the sun, and it's made of iron, just like swords, right? So this is the concept that, like, you have this representational aspect in this story of Michael and his sword, and his sword represents the instrument of the will that has the ability to essentially overcome the forces that oppose it. And this is really what makes like that particular center so pivotal to reaching a higher level of transformation, and why they say like Michael is the strongest archangel, because he is the one who is like God, right? That's what his name means. It means like God. So not God itself, but like God. So they remember archangels, these are the primordial forces of creation. The way I look at it is, it's almost like gravity or electricity or magnetism, some kind of force like that is essentially how I view like archangels. So it's almost like you're having a conversation with light, right? So anyway, that's the point. So that is really where the name of Sword of Mercury comes from. It comes from Church of Pergamos. It comes from the Archangel Michael. It comes from the planet Mercury. It comes from the seat of the self and the place of willpower. It comes from the originating source of mentality. It comes from the spot, which is the seat which transmutes and not only holds up the sword that can cut the threads of the loom of fate, but also beat the adversary. So, again, the only thing is that one must be worthy to wield the sword, and you are the only one who can deem yourself worthy to wield it. That's the thing. So, it's about when you are worthy, the sword actually gets lighter, but the sword is heavier, essentially, in perception than any demon, because all the energy is focused in one spot. That is the sword of Mercury. That is the flaming sword of heaven. That is the sword of Michael. That is the flaming sword. So, again, that sword becomes lighter as you become worthy of wielding it, as you become stronger, as your mentality becomes stronger. It's not about physical strength, even though that helps. It's about mental strength. Can you mentally enhance yourself so that you can adapt to things very quickly? That's, again, like I said, another aspect of Mercury is that its speed is its main aspect, because it revolves closest in the orbit to the sun. So, again, if the sun is like almost the highest self that is visible from our perception of reality, so almost like a creator force, and Mercury is the closest, that means that there is that connection to almost the creator and the one who's like the creator. So, in essence, though, that's why I also, like me personally, I've had a lot of experiences myself with archangels. So, I would say that, like, this is why particularly I chose this name, in essence, so strength is always going to be something that I trumpet. So, if you have enjoyed this video, I encourage you to please like and subscribe because it does help support this channel. It helps me come up with new and intuitive ideas to talk about here because like I said, like I am trying to grow this community, if you want to say, to I guess you could say expand the outreach that I'm able to talk about this stuff with, because the truth is that there's a lot of things that drive somebody to, like, you know, create or whatnot, but like the main thing I want to do is just like get more connected to the community and build something that is almost like my own, you know, and that everybody is like a part of, and we're all focused on the concept of personal development and self-expression, which is like what I always try to make these types of content about. So if this helped you in any way, then my job here is done. So in essence, so that's why I encourage you to like and subscribe if this helped you, because it really does help me help you as well. So yeah, I will also link all of my links in the description below. If you enjoyed my content, I would encourage you to check out my other podcast, Moonstruck. I know I mentioned or referenced Ryuga today, but if you guys want to see me like reference more like anime or make references like that, or do videos on like maybe something related to that, like how it overlaps with some of these concepts, then let me know in the description below. There's actually so much overlap between like a lot of what we see in like animated shows with like aura and whatnot, and what is actually a part of physics and spirituality, so like proven by both. So in essence, that's what I have for you today. On the sword of Mercury. Let me know if you guys enjoyed. And remember, follow me on Instagram at top_sorcerer. My other podcast called Moonstruck, so check that out. This is all I have for you today. Brought to you by the Prince of Mercury. And I hope to see you guys in the next video.